Let's get some more on the breaking news that we've had in the last few minutes. Benny Gantz resigning from the Israeli war cabinet. Noga Tarnopolsky is a journalist in Jerusalem and joins us now. Hello, Noga.
Good evening.
Just tell us more about what is happening. What has Benny Gantz been saying?
Well, Benny Gantz just delivered, I think, what may be the speech of his lifetime, and it's basically a long indictment against the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He accused him of being the obstacle before a true victory for Israel. He accused him of acting on the basis of private, personal, political interests and not in the interests of the nation. He said that his and his party's decision to join the Israeli government after the Hamas attack of October 7th was a very easy one because they're patriots. He and his top partner, Gadi Eisenkot, are both military chiefs of staff, retired chiefs of staff. He said that it was a no-brainer, and he said they're leaving the government now with a heavy heart, but with absolutely no doubts that this is a bad government.
He is someone who has been a long-standing rival to Benjamin Netanyahu. The Israeli Prime Minister has been under pressure from all sides for quite some time. What does his departure do for Israel's leadership, for Benjamin Netanyahu and his hopes of staying in power?
Well, it's a very complex panorama because, of course, what Benny Gantz's supporters hope is that his departure will shake things up in the government and that some of the members of this government may actually be afraid, for example, or have concerns about going forward in the war without the voices of these very experienced military officers in the cabinet. The government right now is the least militarily experienced government in the history of Israel, facing by far the most complex military and strategic challenge the country has ever faced. So there is hope on the Gantzian side, I would say, and on the American side. But the reality, Carol, is that Netanyahu is now left with a coalition of 64 out of 120 members of the Israeli parliament who are extremist, inexperienced, and very devoted to him. And so I think that there are good chances that this government could now take a sharp nationalist or right-wing or irresponsible turn.
Well, many people would look at the government that we've seen in Israel up until now and say it's been pretty right-wing already.
It is. It's a very right-wing government, extremely so. And Benny Gantz and Gadi Eisenkot never joined the government. It's important to remember that. They never left the opposition. They made a deal in which they would bring their experience. They would, as a patriotic act, they would join a war cabinet. And part of the deal was that the government, for example, would not attempt to pass any legislation during the time they were in the war cabinet, wouldn't, engage in partisanship. And so his departure now sort of could unleash the waters of an even more extreme world viewpoint. And I think we might want to remind listeners that before the war, the Netanyahu government had a single policy goal, which was to pass a reform of the administration of the state, which would have basically eliminated judicial review in Israel. And there's a chance that Netanyahu who is on trial for corruption currently, he may see a chance to go back to that now and try and cancel his own trial, among other things.
And do you think that Netanyahu can survive this?
Well,
I mean, survive in power, of course.
Yeah, I understood. I don't know. I mean, it seems impossible, right? It seems impossible that a guy who has about 20% of the support of his voters and a guy who presided over the worst terror attack in Western history, by proportion of the population, by far the worst attack, and a guy who called himself Mr. Syria, it seems inconceivable that 8 months in, he's still in power. So it's difficult to answer you. I mean, rationally speaking, I don't see how he can survive this, but because it seems so impossible for him to survive this, I think would be willing to do even things that are so extreme that we can't even think about them yet in order to stay in power.
And just briefly, this of course comes after that operation, which led to the release of 4 Israeli hostages. But I'm seeing that it's also, according to Hamas, led to the deaths of 3 other hostages.
Well, I actually have not seen that Hamas announcement. I've seen other Hamas announcements today. And I think we should take all of their announcements with many grains of salt.